A year that saw the WrestleMania main event end in a countout, when Raw would regularly be interrupted by this.
It doesn't matter what you think!
When Mark Henry and Big Show broke the ring. When Rey Mysterio became WWE Champion just to get wrecked by Super Cena on the same night. When R-Truth started talking to his imaginary friend. When everyone found out that Kevin Nash was still somehow alive. And we also got whatever the hell this was.
Bruh.
I've been a wrestling fan for almost 30 years, and I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that 2011 was the weirdest, most bipolar, and most schizophrenic year in WWE history. You'd have a banger like Triple H versus Undertaker, and the next moment, Snooki was doing cartwheels in the ring. You'd have Edge's retirement making you all emotional, and the next moment, Michael Cole was trying to get Jerry Lawler to lick his feet. On one hand, you had CM Punk delivering the pipe bomb, but then you'd turn around and have Kevin Nash trying not to blow out his quads on Raw. And these are just some of the wild antics WWE was throwing at us in 2011. It felt like the company couldn't decide if it wanted to be Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, or The Truman Show. So what exactly made 2011 the weirdest year in WWE history? What were the baffling moments, storylines, and creative decisions that turned Monday Night Raw into an unpredictable fever dream? And how did a company manage to produce the most exciting angle in a decade and some of the most embarrassing television in the same year? Let's take a trip down memory lane and relive the insanity that was WWE in 2011. The year kicked off with WWE building toward WrestleMania 27, and right from the start, something felt off. The Rock had returned to host WrestleMania, which should have been a huge deal on its own, but instead of letting that moment breathe, WWE immediately jumped the gun. Rock and Cena immediately started tearing into each other, and the seeds were planted for their Mania encounter, which was more than a year away. This meant the actual WWE Championship match at this year's show was treated like a meaningless obstacle in the way of the real story. The Miz was the champion heading into WrestleMania 27, and WWE made him feel like such an afterthought that most fans probably forgot he was even in the main event. The entire build focused on Rock and Cena trading insults, while Miz stood awkwardly in the background like a third wheel on a date. But when WrestleMania finally arrived, the main event somehow managed to be even worse than the build-up. The biggest show of the year, the main event for the most prestigious championship in wrestling, ended with both guys lying outside the ring while the referee counted to 10. But wait, it gets worse. The Rock, serving as guest host, restarted the match to give the fans a proper ending. Except his idea of a proper ending was hitting John Cena with a rock bottom, allowing The Miz to crawl over and pin the company's top babyface to retain the championship. So not only did the main event end in a non-finish, but when it was restarted, the face of the company got screwed in the middle of the ring to set up a match that was more than a year away. The message was clear. This WrestleMania didn't matter. The Miz's reign didn't matter. All that mattered was planting the seeds for Rock versus Cena next year, and everything else was just filler. After this disaster, The Miz went from WWE Champion to a mid-card comedy act within months. But while the WWE Championship picture was a mess, the World Heavyweight title scene on SmackDown was going through its own identity crisis that somehow managed to be even more confusing. In 2011, we got the biggest Rumble the company had seen to date. Instead of 30, you had 40 men in the Rumble, and honestly, it was pretty dope. You had John Morrison becoming Spider-Man, you had some cool returns, and in the end, it was Alberto Del Rio winning the Royal Rumble, earning himself a shot at Edge's World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. This should have been a straightforward story, but in 2011's WWE, nothing could be that simple. Edge successfully defended his title against Del Rio at WrestleMania, which was fine, but then, just days later on April 11th, Edge came out on Raw and dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. After years of neck problems and multiple surgeries, doctors told him that one more bump could leave him paralyzed or dead. Just like that, one of the greatest performers of the generation was gone. The announcement came out of nowhere, and it left SmackDown without a World Heavyweight Champion. WWE decided to hold a ladder match at Extreme Rules between Christian and Alberto Del Rio for the vacant title. And in a feel-good moment, Christian, Edge's best friend and longtime tag team partner, finally won his first World Heavyweight Championship after 16 years in the business. It was a beautiful story. Fans were happy for Christian. It felt like WWE was rewarding his dedication and giving a deserving veteran his moment in the sun. And then Vince McMahon killed it 5 days later. On a random episode of SmackDown, just 5 days after winning the championship, Christian lost the title to Randy Orton. No build, no story, just Vince apparently deciding that Christian wasn't championship material and taking the belt off him immediately. What followed was months of Christian begging for one more match against Orton, getting title shots, losing, begging for another one, losing again, turning heel out of desperation, and still losing. Christian and Orton had good matches together, but the whole angle felt like WWE was punishing Christian for having the audacity to win the championship in the first place. The whole SmackDown title scene in 2011 perfectly captured WWE's inability to commit to anything. Edge retired, Christian became champion, then Randy dethroned him, then Mark Henry dethroned Randy, and by the end of the year, we had half a dozen title changes. But as chaotic as the title scene was, it wasn't even close to being the weirdest thing happening on WWE television. For that, we need to go back to the absolute circus that was WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania 27 wasn't just bad because of the main event. The entire show felt like WWE had completely lost the plot on what their biggest event of the year should look like. Michael Cole, the commentator for Raw, had turned heel months earlier and started feuding with Jerry Lawler. At WrestleMania 27, this feud somehow got almost 20 minutes of ring time. Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus for the United States Championship got cut from the main show entirely and relegated to the pre-show because WWE needed time for Cole versus Lawler. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the special guest referee, which should have made it fun, but instead it was just painful to watch. Two commentators took up a quarter of an hour on WrestleMania, while actual talented performers either got bumped to the pre-show or didn't make the card at all. But the feud didn't end there. At Extreme Rules and Over the Limit, Cole and Lawler continued their rivalry with more bizarre stipulations and more mind-numbing matches. But somehow, this wasn't even the most bizarre part. Snooki from Jersey Shore, a reality TV star who had never trained as a wrestler, got a prominent spot on the WrestleMania card. She teamed with John Morrison and Trish Stratus against Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool. And not only was she on the show, but she got the winning pin. WrestleMania 27, which was dubbed as the biggest WrestleMania of all time, ended up being an absolute clown show with just two good matches. The anonymous Raw general manager was still a thing too, with a laptop that would ding and send emails to Michael Cole. That was until the latter half of 2011, when this buffoon took over as Raw GM. Over on SmackDown, Cody Rhodes broke his nose and became undashing. Kane and Big Show were goofing around. You had a fake Obama show up at Capital Punishment. Sin Cara kept botching his entrance. And between Cole's glass cube, a laptop running the show, and Hornswoggle dancing with the Great Khali, early 2011 felt like WWE had become a full-blown cartoon show. But then, something happened that changed everything. In June 2011, a disgruntled wrestler sat down cross-legged at the top of a ramp and delivered a promo that would make everyone forget about Michael Cole's glass cube and remember why they loved wrestling in the first place. On June 20th, 2011, CM Punk sat down cross-legged at the top of the entrance ramp and delivered what would become known as the pipe bomb, an unfiltered rant that felt more real than anything WWE had done in over a decade. He called out Vince McMahon. He buried Triple H's politics. He mocked John Cena's merch machine. He name-dropped Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. He mentioned Colt Cabana, and he revealed that his contract was expiring on July 17th at Money in the Bank, and he was planning to leave WWE with the championship. For the first time in years, wrestling felt unpredictable again. Was this a work? Was it a shoot? Was Punk actually leaving? The internet exploded with speculations, and fans couldn't look away. Money in the Bank in Chicago became one of the hottest tickets in wrestling history. Punk challenged John Cena for the WWE Championship in his hometown, and the atmosphere was electric. When Punk hit the GTS and pinned Cena in the middle of the ring, the building exploded. He grabbed the championship, blew a kiss to Vince McMahon at ringside, and left through the crowd like a folk hero escaping with stolen treasure. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Punk had the belt, his contract had expired, and he was free. WWE had created a storyline that existed both inside and outside their bubble, and fans were completely invested in where it would go next. But then, the company panicked and ruined everything. Instead of letting Punk stay gone for months and build the mystique, WWE brought him back after just 8 days. Instead of letting the story breathe and keeping fans guessing, they immediately shot themselves in the foot and made Rey Mysterio look like a clown in the process. At SummerSlam, Punk beat Cena to unify the championships, which should have been the ultimate triumph. Except immediately after winning, Kevin Nash, who hadn't been relevant in years, ran in and attacked Punk for no clear reason. Then Alberto Del Rio cashed in his briefcase and won the title, ending Punk's reign after less than a month. The summer of Punk that should have been a career-defining run became a confusing mess involving Kevin Nash texting himself, Triple H putting on a suit, and Punk getting lost in a corporate conspiracy storyline that nobody understood or cared about. By Night of Champions, instead of being WWE Champion and leading a revolution, CM Punk was losing clean to Triple H. But while WWE was busy killing CM Punk's momentum, they were also stumbling into another weird situation that somehow captured both the insanity and entertainment value of 2011. 2011 gave us one of the most bizarre and weirdly entertaining pairings of all time. After losing a #1 contender match, R-Truth snapped, turned heel, and started smoking at ringside and ranting about conspiracy theories. Truth started talking to an imaginary friend named Little Jimmy, accused the audience of plotting against him, and poured drinks on fans in the front row. He wore Confederate soldier hats, spoke in paranoid rants, and acted like a man who had completely lost his mind. It was absurd, it made no sense, but somehow Truth committed so hard to the character that it actually worked. However, Truth wasn't the only person in WWE who was a victim of conspiracy. The Miz, who played a supporting role in his own Mania main event, joined forces with Truth, and the two became obsessed with the idea that there was a massive conspiracy keeping them out of the main event. They started attacking Triple H, they caused walkouts, invaded pay-per-views, and generally made life hell for WWE's corporate structure. At Vengeance in October, Triple H booked himself in a tag team match against Awesome Truth. His partner was none other than CM Punk, the same guy who 3 months earlier had been the rebellious anti-hero fighting against everything Triple H represented. Now Punk was partnering with the boss to fight guys complaining about not getting opportunities. It was bipolar booking at its finest. The year ended with CM Punk finally winning the WWE Championship at Survivor Series and beginning what would become a historic reign. Daniel Bryan cashed in Money in the Bank to win the World Heavyweight Championship at TLC. Triple H and Kevin Nash ran it back like it was 1995. Kane returned with a new mask. Cena and Rock teamed up at Survivor Series, and the Great Khali was somehow still employed. But while WWE in 2011 was weird, it was at least still entertaining, unlike WWE in 2025 that feels completely soulless and spineless. And if you want to know why 2025 is the year WWE lost its balls, check out this video next.